Hey, what's going on everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and we're going to be putting the stock cooler back on this RTX 3080 EVGA card. Also want to clean it up. The pump is not working, even though in the last video we were able to use our voltage meter to test out. We are getting power from each one of these 4-pin GPU fan header connectors. We are getting power, but the pump's not coming on, and then the fan splitter cable is not delivering power to anything else. So I think this pump is done. I tried to get EVGA to do an RMA, and it looks like they denied me because this is a secondhand GPU. I asked the original owner for the receipt, but doesn't matter. EVGA is denying me because it's after the 1-year mark, even though it's still under warranty if we go and look it up. We are going to need our retention bracket, and as you saw in the previous video and probably can maybe see because you guys are on the GoPro on the top of my head, is that some of these screws are really rusted. This obviously was an outside area. We're going to need the stock back plate, but the thermal pads we might need to replace because like some of these are doubled up. So like these are fine. These are actually good Thermal Grizzly thermal pads, but we need to clean them up. Maybe we can reuse them. As long as it's doing a good job, we should be fine. But if I need to replace any more, I will. And need to probably remove this copper plate that's on here. Thermal paste is really set on there. Got to be careful with the SMDs and components around the GPU die. That sucker is really set on there. Damn. Just got to be really careful. Do not want to break any SMDs surrounding this guy. Alright, I hate to do this, but I'm going to. Need to find a good spot. Come on, baby. Alright. There's the cold plate. So that was already replaced with new thermal paste, but this is a copper plate that I think doesn't come stock with the normal RTX cooler. Let me go ahead and grab that now. But I'm pretty sure their copper plate is built into this guy already, so we're not going to utilize that. Let's find out. And then there's the giveaway GPU that should be going to the one lucky winner later on. And yeah, see the copper plate's built in. Actually, the thermal pads on this look really good. We're gonna need thermal pad for this area right here. Clean that off. We could use this. We could reuse that. We need thermal pads for the chokes if we're going to put this back on. So let's see here. Yeah, so we need thermal pad for this and thermal pad for that, and I don't know the size, but we can get it off of this guy right here, and it looks like 1 mil thickness. Might be able to pull that off and reuse it instead of getting new thermal pads, because these chokes, you know, 125C rated, these guys are pretty good. These guys are pretty good. They could take a beating. So this copper plate's got to come off, but it is really sticking to those memory modules. So this is going to be fun. Did he like super glue it to this thing? Oh, I'm bowing the card so hard at the PCB. There we go. All right. So we need to scrape off. I'm running out of room here. We need to scrape off that one, put it on this copper plate. And there's a lot of dust on this thing. Damn it. There we go. And we could put that in a plastic bag. Just to keep that safe. Clean this all up, all this extra thermal paste. I made sure to put extra so that way there was a good seal, because there wasn't much. If you look, that cold plate is not only sinking the GPU core, but it's sinking the memory. And so I put some extra thermal paste around it just to make sure that it had a good seal, and it did. But yeah, we need to clean that sucker off, and I have no way to stand it up. So let's do that. I'll worry about that later. Really, I want to clean this PCB off quite well. And for the old goo on the memory modules, I like to scrape it off with something like this, being very careful of the SMDs and the surrounding componentry. Because once you start rubbing it with rubbing alcohol, you just basically smear it in there. So if you can very carefully, and these SMDs right here are just a little bit lower than the memory modules, so be very careful with those. It's okay if it goes in between the memory modules, because this isn't going to hurt. It's not going to hurt anything. The thermal pad residue isn't going to hurt anything. But you know, if you're going for that fresh look, I can see why some people wouldn't like it. Sorry for the loud fans. You guys are right. We're right here by my little mini ASICs. But the sound shouldn't be too bad, because you guys should be on my lavalier mic, hopefully. Sometimes the GoPro works well, and sometimes it doesn't. Alright, so a little touching of rubbing alcohol. Should be able to get that up. Come on. Alright. Now it's just a matter of taking care of all these little dust bunnies throughout, which I am going to use the soft bristle brush for, to kind of clean everything up very carefully. Just trying to loosen things up. Not trying to break anything. Just loosen things up. Clean up some of these connections. I mean, even the 8-pin on these look pretty grody, to be honest. So we're gonna have to go get the big boy stuff. Could probably do some serious overclocking on this guy and go ahead. It looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we wanted to do some modifications, hardware mods, 6 up front. So this got to control the PCIe slot power, 75 watts, which typically you wouldn't modify that, but I believe the 30 series makes it to where if you did want to, you would need to wire in your own voltage monitoring and control, because obviously we're going to be spoofing it. And we don't typically want to modify the 75 watts coming from the PCIe slot, but in order to make this mod work, we would have to do all 6 up front, and there's additional in the back right here also for the PCIe slot. So 7 total resistors we would have to mod on there. I think I have enough from my Elmore kit, but who knows. So let's go get the big boy and go, well, we need to wipe down this thermal paste first. If you're gonna do what I'm doing, just be careful with the small SMDs, surface mounted devices, around the GPU core. Alright, that's good enough. Now let's tackle the cold plate, even though it's not gonna really matter. Alright, cold plate's good. GPU die is good. Let's go clean this off with some proper material. Let that dry off. Now it's just a matter of getting 1 mil for here and 1 mil for there. That's just plastic. That's not even metal. That's just plastic. That, what? Oh, okay, that is metal. That's a metal heat sink. All right, metal heat sink. Just removing the thermal pads from this cooler, which probably came as part of the instruction set. And moving it over here. Of course, we're going to need to double check it when we put everything together, or attempt to, because the heatsink sizes might be actually different. That's not even covering the whole thing. So let's split the difference. Alright, so we need to start in the middle here. Dang it. There we go. Haven't really tested out this GPU, so if I really need to replace the thermal pads, I will. But let's see here. It's a little bit stretched. We'll make it work though. I'm putting the fresher side on the right because the other two are empty. Be very careful because when you use this pick on this copper plate, it will scratch the hell out of it. Just go back and forth, side to side, if you're trying to save the thermal pads. And these look about 2.5 mil in thickness. And this one was already coming up, so we can just pull that sucker up. And this one's probably gonna be stretched as well. Yeah. So let's try to squeeze it a bit, give it some depth again. I don't normally reuse thermal pads, but again, because we have no confirmed proof that this GPU works. I mean, we got it to show up on the system and everything with the hydro cooler, but this is why you don't want to stretch your thermal pads. But that would be good enough. That would work. So all the thermal pads are moved over to their respective spots. Let's put some cryo knot, some of that good on here. And some of the screws that were missing, I'm gonna have to figure that one out because these screws were different with this kit. So I'm gonna have to find some of the originals. It might be a little bit too much, but it's okay. We'll make it work. There goes about 25 cents. All right, that's good to go. Now the hard part, connecting everything back up. These GPUs are a bit fun. Oof. Not going to worry about the back plate just yet. because again, I just want to make sure that everything's in working order, and then I'll do fresh everything if I have to. Actually, come to think about it, I am missing the nuts that came with this cooler. To hold that back plate on, there are some nuts. So I might be able to put the back plate on, but it's not going to be all the way on anyways. There's one. There's two. I don't think there's anything for me to screw into here. Yeah, there's nothing there. I'm missing the nuts that's supposed to go right here. Okay. I could at least get these guys in there. I'm not going to have sufficient mounting pressure, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't put this back on because the original owner didn't give me all the hardware. I got some screws here, but I am missing the nuts. So there should be two here by the I/O, 3 by the I/O, 1, 2, 3, but there's not. 2 over here, 2 over here, and I think there's one back here on the bottom side right here. Yep. So I'm missing 3 little nuts that came with this card stock. So I'm not going to have sufficient mounting pressure, even if, so I'm glad I didn't replace the thermal pads, because this is just chilling now. But I mean, I could kind of bend the back plate into position, make sure everything is seated properly. Thermal pads are making contact with what I need it to. Everything's looking good. Now we just need to plug this in and check out the thermals. Maybe I could fit the hydro cooler in there, who knows. But that's the end of this video. Thank you for hanging out with me for such a long time. Not the best setup, but you know, the thermal pads on the backside will do something. There is some pressure on there, just we're lacking pressure over here. So this memory pad, this one, and the left side of this one probably aren't making the best contact. What we could do to subsidize or to, you know, kind of work around that, be careful with the I/O shield. The I/O shield isn't really on there now because we're missing the screw here and the screw here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts or nuts that those bolts go into, or screws. But if you look very carefully, you could see in there that the thermal pads are making contact with the back side of the GDR6X, which is flip chip, so all the heat's coming out the back. This should suffice, but we're going to do some testing, maybe run it to some time spy stress tests and see how the memory modules do good, and go from there. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out. If you made it this far, do me a favor and write hashtag missing nuts, hashtag missing nuts in the comments if you stayed to the end of this video. And yeah, hit the like button on the way out, get subscribed, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, as well as check out some of the links in the description. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Sucks that all of this is rusted, missing points and stuff like that, but this is what you get when you go second hand. All right, at least it's an EVGA card. See you guys in the next one. Take care. It is working and doing good, or what I expect of a 3080. And just like all 3080s, on some severe workloads, the memory is thermal throttling. Now, yes, maybe the thermal pads aren't making sufficient contact because the original owner didn't give me the bolts I needed to securely mount this backplate, but we could replace the thermal pads on there with a little bit bigger and it should work just fine. Or we could find the bolts or the nuts that these screw into, or good thing I have one of these lying around. Cool my GPU, copper plate, sufficiently improve the thermals on my other For the Win 3 Ultra. So maybe we'll throw that on there and improve thermals on this guy as well. Who's to say? Either way, it's working and it's working well. Just thermal issues like with all 3080s as we've seen before.